there's a lot of things that you might be thinking about Salesforce right now that just aren't true anymore. So I want to help debunk those and help you understand the truth behind what Salesforce truly can be for recruiters. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Salesforce for Recruiters. I'm your host, Brad Owens, and I was just like you. I was a recruiter for well over a decade, using pieces of technology here and there that never really fit what I truly hoped they would do for my business. And then I saw Salesforce, and I went, where has this been all my life? So since then, I've been learning everything I could about Salesforce. I understand what it can truly do for recruiting, and I started this to be able to share that with you. I want to help you learn what I wish I knew about Salesforce way earlier on in my career, and also help you avoid some of the mistakes and the traps that I fell into when I was going through my journey understanding the plan. So welcome in to Salesforce for Recruiters. On today's episode, we're going to talk about 5 of the common misconceptions about using Salesforce for recruiters, and some of the things that I honestly thought before I got into Salesforce that I guarantee you are not true. There's a lot of things that you might be thinking about Salesforce right now that just aren't true anymore. So I want to help debunk those and help you understand the truth behind what Salesforce truly can be for recruiters. So myth number 1 with Salesforce for recruiters is that Salesforce is only for sales. Absolutely wrong. It is absolutely not. Yes, it's in the name, Salesforce, but I promise you it is no longer just for sales. Even Salesforce themselves have products that aren't for sales. They have customer service focusing tools, they have marketing focused tools, they have data analysis focused tools. They've got tons of different things that just they as Salesforce can do that are not just sales focused. But they also have this incredible power of a thing called the App Exchange. And the App Exchange allows you to create any type of environment that you want by adding on little bits and pieces for your own specific applications and for your own specific uses. So App Exchange is fantastic for that. But not only App Exchange, not only what Salesforce has developed for you, you can also use it to create whatever you want. The Salesforce platform has a solution where you can build out specific apps just for you and your use case. It's incredible. So Salesforce is not just for sales. Thinking that will honestly keep you off of one of the best platforms out there to be doing business. Myth number 2 about Salesforce for recruiters is that Salesforce is too expensive. It's not. It's not. When you think about some of the all-in-one recruiting platforms that are out there that are up in the $200 per user per month, or even coming down to more of the less feature-rich recruiting apps out there, things that are in the $75 to $100 per user per month, Salesforce fits in that range perfectly. Now, you can obviously spend as much money as you want on a particular platform and get tons of different things. But the beauty of Salesforce is that you get not only the ability to create what you truly need, but you can only share those features with those people that need it. So let me give you an example of a typical recruiting firm. A recruiting firm, you might have salespeople over here that will be selling out to companies to try and find a new job to fill. And then you have the recruiters or the sources over here that are tasked with matching people up for those jobs. Now, these salespeople, they don't truly need an applicant tracking system, right? So why are they paying for it? In a typical system, what you'd be doing is paying for the entire suite for every single person in your company. Sales doesn't need the recruiting licenses, and recruiting doesn't need the sales licenses. So why are you paying for them now? In the Salesforce ecosystem, you don't have to. You can choose the licenses based on the user that's going to log into the system. So you end up getting tremendous value out of what you're actually spending because every single person has exactly what they need in the system. So cost-wise, I would say you're likely not going to be spending any different than you already are on your recruiting solution, but the value that you get out of that cost that you're actually spending is going to be tremendous because each and every person gets their own specific use case that they log into, and they're going to use every bit of that. So Salesforce is not too expensive. If anything, you're getting more value out of the exact same cost that you're already spending today. Myth number 3, Salesforce is too complicated to use. Excuse me, I am a recruiting veteran. I told you I spent 10 plus years in recruiting. I learned how to use Salesforce and got 3 certifications in under a month. If I can do that, I promise you that you'll be able to understand Salesforce and understand how to use this thing. It's just like anything else. Yes, you're going to have a learning curve, and how you learn is different for you. But I'm telling you, Salesforce has tremendous, tremendous resources out there to help you learn it. They have trailhead.com, which is every single thing you need to know about the platform in gamification format and really easy to use quizzes. It'll teach you everything you need to know for free. And also, if you think it's too complex to use, then why is it used by a majority of, I don't know, gigantic organizations or small organizations alike, or the US government? Like, it's used by tons and tons of organizations. If it was so complicated to use, I don't think everyone would be adopting this thing. So Salesforce is not too complex to use. If I can understand it and learn it in a short time as a month, you can too. Myth number 4 is that Salesforce lacks recruiting features. I can't tell you how wrong that is. Again, see myth number 1. Salesforce can be whatever you want it to be. Salesforce itself, think about how a sales process is designed. We have a thing that we want to get someone to agree to, and we take them through different stages of a sales process, right? When we recruit, we have something we want someone to eventually get to. We want them to get to a yes. Same thing as a sales process. We go out and we find someone that we want to reach out to. Could be a candidate, could be a client. We do the same thing. Then we move them through a process of discovery and understanding, and then eventually they get to the point where they say yes and they close a thing. They either say yes to a job, or they say yes to giving you a contract, or whatever it might be. Those processes are exactly the same. And inside Salesforce, it doesn't have to be a sales process that you follow. It's just a process. If you want to apply that process to recruiting, apply it to recruiting. And even still, Salesforce might not have the exact specific thing that you're looking for, but I guarantee you that out there on the App Exchange, something exists. If you only want to have access to an applicant tracking system, and that's what you think all recruiters need access to, you can get that with something like the Assemble applicant tracking system out there. It's asymbl.com if you want to learn more. You plug that into Salesforce, you've got all the recruiting features you'd ever need. You have an applicant tracking system inside Salesforce, and you still get to take advantage of everything else that Salesforce has to offer. So Salesforce doesn't lack recruiting tools. Thinking that it lacks recruiting tools is a fundamental misunderstanding of what the platform can actually do. The Salesforce Sales Cloud can even be applicable to recruiting. So Salesforce doesn't lack recruiting features. It's got a plethora of things you can add to the platform. And last but not least, myth number 5 is that Salesforce is difficult to integrate into your existing tools. Very big myth. Very big myth. Salesforce is built on top of an open ecosystem. They're open API. Now, what that truly means is APIs are, I'm going to use like the most basic of definitions that I can possibly think of. API is like a language that your application speaks. If you wanted to go out and learn Spanish, you would get a dictionary that says, here's, in my case, English to Spanish and Spanish to English. You'd have that translation resource. That's an API where you can essentially say, in my app, this thing means this. How about in your app? And then you have this other app that you want to integrate that will likely have some sort of API where you can connect those two things together, and now your applications can talk. That's what an API truly is, and Salesforce is open. You can see every single thing about it and use it and utilize it for your own needs. Now, that's the worst case scenario. As easy as that sounds, that's the worst case scenario. Luckily, Salesforce is so pervasive out there in the ecosystems and in the world that it's really hard to find some kind of tool that you may want to use that doesn't integrate into Salesforce. They may already have a API key or something else where you can just plug it into Salesforce and ta-da, it works. Or it could be something like LinkedIn. Sales Navigator for LinkedIn is just a, hey, what's your username and password? Oh, cool, we'll bring that into Salesforce. It's that difficult. So I have seen time and time again that people are like, oh, well, my billing system or my invoicing system just doesn't work with Salesforce. Like, yes, it absolutely can work with Salesforce. I've been doing this ecosystem thing in Salesforce for 5-6 years now, and I've yet to see there be a solution that doesn't integrate with Salesforce. And here's an even more extra bonus for you. If it doesn't, Salesforce has their own tool called MuleSoft that they're able to create that type of integration for you. So if it is absolutely dire for your business that this thing integrates with Salesforce, MuleSoft is out there, and that can help you integrate into their system and your other system. So it's always possible. So thinking that it's going to be really difficult to integrate into your current systems into Salesforce is an absolute myth. That's something that Salesforce excels at. So there you have it. There's the 5 common myths about Salesforce for recruiting. I hope that some of those were things that you were thinking, and honestly, you got a little bit of education to say, oh wow, maybe I'll rethink and look at Salesforce again, because I wish I had looked at it far, far sooner. So let's recap. Here are 5 myths about Salesforce for recruiting that I hope we gave a little bit better education on today. 1, Salesforce is just for sales. It's not. It's for anything you want to make it to be. 2, Salesforce is too expensive. It's not. It's probably going to cost around the same as you're already paying now, but the value you get out of this is going to be tremendous. Number 3, that Salesforce is really complex and too hard to use. That's an absolute myth because I was able to learn it in under a month. And if I can do it, you can do it. Myth number 4, that Salesforce lacks recruiting features. That's an absolute myth. You can already take advantage of what's there, but you can make it even tremendously more valuable to you by taking advantage of the App Exchange or even creating your own apps on top of Salesforce. It doesn't lack recruiting features. You're able to use it for recruiting. And myth number 5, Salesforce is too hard to integrate into my tools. It's not. I would be very surprised if the Salesforce doesn't already integrate with some of the tools that you have. And if it doesn't, there are ways around it to get it to integrate because Salesforce has an open API. So of those 5 myths, those are things that I wish I knew way earlier on in my journey. So I would have actually given Salesforce a second look. I would have not dismissed it as, oh, well, this is only for my salespeople. It's for the entire company. You can run your business end to end on that. And I really wish I knew that well in advance of when I did. And I also want to point you to a specific example. 619 Recruiting actually uses Salesforce and the Assemble ATS and a bunch of other tools to run their entire recruiting business. This isn't some gigantic enterprise level staffing and recruiting firm yet. They're going to. But this is someone who understood how to actually get value out of the Salesforce platform, took action, went through the process of actually discovering more about what it could do for their business. And now they have a tech stack that will rival anything out there, any company, and they are operating at peak efficiency. So want to point you towards a webinar that we did with 619 Recruiting. I'll put the link in the comments below where you can learn all about what 619 did and how they went around selecting the different pieces for their tech stack. And they were to assemble exactly what they needed. And they took advantage of the industry not knowing the answers to these true 5 myths about the platform, and they're out there excelling. So if you like content like this, you're in the right place. This is Salesforce for Recruiters. If you want to find out more, it's at salesforceforrecruiters.com. You'll find this and tons of other content on using the Salesforce platform for recruiting. I'm your host, as always, Brad Owens. If you've got a question, please reach out to me directly. My email is hello@bradowens.com. Very simple to remember, hello@bradowens.com. I'd be glad to answer any of your questions. We actually do listener FAQs constantly. So if you'd like to get your question answered on one of those, let me know. Happy to do that. But until next time, I will leave you there. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Salesforce for Recruiters. I'll see you on the next one.